What's up guys, this is Scher talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'll be making a preview for the Esper Boy Romancing Festival banner that brings 3 different types of support, with Esper Boy being more of a reduced in damage type of support, with Esper Girl bringing even utility like BP generation, and Key giving status buffs and damage reduction as well. This banner may be interesting for some people lacking damage reduction and other types of support. So let's go straight to Reddit in a post by Hans483. Thank you so much for always doing this amazing job. We have Esper Boy, the first one in the banner. 122 intelligence is okay, and 104% agility is nice because he needs to go first most of the time. Endurance and Will are just kind of average values, they could be better, and nothing else here is important. Moving on, he has a 50% chance to grant cold and lightning defense down to targets when he's attacking. And it lasts for 2 turns and can stack, but it's just 50% chance. He will always recover 1 BP when he attacks. The volley for the defense weak is minus 20% resistance to both cold and lightning. It can stack if you're using someone using both types of attack. Damage will scale well. One character that uses these types are Creator. Another one is Silver, for example. On the second passive, we have 30% increase to cold and lightning attacks, and they can stack if the attack has both elements for 60% increase. There's also intrinsic MRs 5, increasing damage potential by 20%, reducing damage taken when resisting by 40, and having a 37% chance to evade resisted attacks. The first spell is Support and grants him Guard Up Small, decreasing damage taken by 12%, lasts for 2 turns, and also a follow-up with skill number 2 that will last for 4 turns, actually only 3 because this turn is also accounted for. This is pretty much what you got with the latest version of ailment. The good thing is that this attack is awesome. It usually costs 8 BP and it has C power, cold and lightning, so it will benefit from everything that he has to offer, and attacks between 2 to 3 times. Ailment attacks just 2 times, but Ailment self-buffs when attacking, so it's very similar result when you consider everything. The good thing is that you can also apply this cold and lightning defense down so that you actually keep increasing the damage as well. Skill number 3 is a 10 BP B power AoE attack that grants defense up and guard up. Both have medium effects, so that decreases by 25 and another 25, lasts for 2 turns, and well, he only has 4 BP per turn. That means that in the end, it's not really great to use this. This isn't a skill that you got in the past with Undine. As support, it's okay for those that miss it out on some heavy defense boosters like Liz, like Final Impress, but I don't believe that he is all for support. You should just actually consider using skill number 1, then skill number 2, skill number 1, skill number 2, so that you actually use the skill and you have the chase, and then sometimes you even have 2 chases for very strong damage. The good thing is that cold and lightning are not so competitive, but many enemies that are weak to cold will also be weak to lightning. He is made for boss fights. At least intrinsic helps in decreasing some damage, but you need to check the equipments. Based on actual power, he competes with Silver and will receive a triple S grade. It's somewhat easy to skip because damage dealers now will always grade high because they are better than the past ones, but they don't stay on the top for too long. Now moving on, we have Esper Girl, and she is an improvement over the Halloween version based on what she offers, but she still needs inheritance because Witch Trick is such an amazing skill. For example, 71% endurance, but 108% will are awesome values. She has 120% intelligence and 98% agility for actually good combination of speed and damage. Love is good as well, so she can inherit healing spells. First passive reduces damage taken at all times by 25%, starts the fight to 12 BP, and when attacking, she will debuff the enemy intelligence and will by 5%, always. And also, when using attacks, she has a 50% chance to activate skill number 2. That is a single target hit and shadow spell. This can also be used on Halloween squads, for example. That grants defense boost medium for 1 turn. That decreases damage taken by 25%. And she applies a passive to the squad. When they are attacked by spells, they will recover 1 BP. 3 times, only lasts for 1 turn. So, you use this skill. If the enemy uses 3 spells on you, you recover 3 BP. The good thing is that she actually has at least 5 EP generation, meaning that she can keep using this if she wants. It has at least a defense boost effect. But with Streak Inheritance is still much better because of how you actually wanna buff break many bosses and even debuff them sometimes. But this skill is interesting for situations where you have some extra slots and you want some more BP and the enemies are using spells. Very, very situational though. Second one, on the turn begins, she grants herself elemental boost heat, increasing her damage potential by 30%. She can actually stack 3 times, so turn 3 she has full potential for 90%, and when she's using heat attacks, she recovers 2 BP. That's all of her attacks, and even with Streak via Inheritance. Also, when turn begins, she gets this Heat Up Extreme that increases damage potential by 30% as well. So we have 150% because this can stack 5 times, and then another 90 for a total of 240 just from this. She always decreases damage taken, does not need to resist. We will recover at least 5 EP per turn, and then 7 when she chases, and we'll debuff intelligence and will at least 5% or 10% when she chases, and if you are inheriting with Streak, she's going to debuff either 20 or 25% for those 2 status and 15% for all the remaining ones. Pretty interesting kit. It's an improvement over what your Halloween Esper Girl is doing, but Halloween Esper Girl is so good that she will still be relevant, and as she is, she's more important than this one, because that with Streak spell is awesome. Again, yes, I need to keep saying. Then spell number 1 is a 2 BP heat attack that before attacking buffs intelligence by 25%, then attacks with the C power skill. That's actually strong, but you may not want to use this skill too often, at least it's heat and shadow. Then the second one we discussed it already, that the good thing is that these values can stack, so if you are using this skill by command and then you get the chase, you have this applied twice, so when you are hit by a spell, you will get 2 BP back, and then 4, and then maybe 6, then it stops working, if your enemy keeps using spells. The third one is a 12 BP B-Power Heat and Shadow attack that attacks between 2 to 3 times. Well, just B-Power, it's actually okay, but if you are hitting just 2 times, it becomes a little costly. For 3 times, it's nice. But every time that it lands, it will recover the HP of your surviving allies by around 250. Yeah, this can be used as your main heal. I don't know, depending on the fights if you have way too many defense boosts, but it can sometimes just be used as an emergency situation healing, since the cycle is a little complicated. You may start with 12, but then after that you only get usually 5 per turn or 7. On average you get 6 when you consider the normal usage of chases. But even then, if you only hit 2 times, it's not as good as using Polka or Mirza or even Razen as your main healers. Depending if you need way too much healing, it can work. So overall, the character works with just that fast skill that applies the defense boost and applies the EP generation on spells, but without the inheritance, I don't think she's much worth. It's just to improve your Esper Girl, and she will receive a triple S grade as she is, or a OP grade with the inheritance of the Halloween version. Then we have Kid, and she's full support. She has just 93% intelligence, but 105% will. Those are okay values. Her endurance is kinda bad, and nothing else shines, but love and charisma are very high. On the start of a round, she buffs will of all surviving allies by 35%, and then 45% resistance to ailments. By the end of a turn, she recovers 2 BP, so, well, a lot of effects for just one passive. Second one is Screw Guard. As long as everyone is alive, she decreases damage taken by 20%, and if she gets attacked and killed, she would then recover the HP of all allies by probably 1,800. That's a very good value, and, well, reducing damage taken as long as everyone is alive is good enough in my opinion. Let's check what else. She reduces damage taken all times by 30%, and by the end of a turn, she recovers her HP by around 300. Well, recovery is an interesting aspect of the character that we need to check more. Well, spell number 1 is 3 BP cost endurance and will buff. That will buff by 25%. If you manually level this up, it starts with just 15. and will also buff ailment resistance by 22% on max level. So it's not that great. It's half of what she buffs passively. But those values stack, they cannot be removed by the enemies. So she's actually a very good character to replace Maria. And not just with this skill, she also has a recovery fast skill that does not use LP, can recover and revive. Will also buff Will by 40% if you manually level this up. It starts on 30%, and will also buff ailment resistance. It says very large effect. I think it should be around 40% or something. This is very nice. Well, Maria will apply a heal and evasion. She can also buff ailment resistance, but when she's doing that, she's not buffing endurance and will. She has to cycle. So I do believe that Ki has a better setup now that we are fighting versus enemies that remove your will buffs every turn and you need ailment resistance directly. So a good alternative for these fights, and if you need some extra healing, this is fast and will give you will and ailment resistance to not get inflicted in that turn. Then the third one is an 8BP SS power cold attack that before attacking will buff will by 40% and then recover HP by around 300 and then attack. That's interesting because 8BP, okay, she has actually 5 per turn. Then she can use this skill and then use skill number 1. She does lack 1 BP because this cycle uses 11. But if you have at least one character like Liz or Nawal's daughter in the party, they will fix this problem. Or else you have to skip one or other turn. And this skill here also does not buff ailment resistance, so it just buffs will. In some fights, it will be better to just keep using skill number 1 and then use skill number 2 when the time comes. That will be usually the better setup. And when you want to do damage and need extra will or healing, use skill number 3, but not on cycles, just on specific turns. So these banner units are interesting. Ki is a replacement for Maria most of the time. Shirei also has ailment resistance buff, and he buffs will and ailment resistance, so part of this is already covered. Well, she buffs endurance as well. For 3BP, he actually only uses 1. He does have lots of BP generation anyway, but she has other stuff that will try to keep you alive. Reduce damage taken. She also decreases damage by 20%, while Shirei decreases by 15. Some fights you may actually want to bring her instead of Shirei if Shirei is there just to buff ailment resistance. So, an interesting character, and I would say that she gets pretty close to OP status, but I do believe it's more like Maria will be demoted to SS, because Ki is as good as Maria in most scenarios, but better sometimes. If we could just say that based on past performance, Ki will just land as OP grade. But since the game is changing all that much, and we don't know how fast it will improve, I believe that a SS grade is more than deserved. Well, this banner is a little more easy to recommend to new players because you do have some effects. For example, although Esper Boy doesn't have the best cycle, 2 defensive layers is nice to have. Esper Girl does have some nice stuff as well, and if you got her Halloween style, it's now available on Shirei's banner. You have a damage dealer and also supporter, and Ki can replace Maria and also use it together with Shirei if you want to have very high ailment resistance for Spiral. So we do have some stuff covered here. If you have Esper Girl, I would say that this banner deserves a silver or silver plus award, not entirely decided. But if you don't have Esper to inherit, then the value of the banner decreases by a lot, in my opinion, because if you already have Maria, summoning for Ki is an improvement in most scenarios, but not exactly a must-have as well. So, based on all of that, this is my opinion. What is yours? Please say here on the comment section. I'll be making the full review later, but that will be in another day. See you later on the next episode. Bye.